All right, so this is Mark Rollins here. So this sketch was
Ready
done
to
about
transmit, sir?
30 years ago when I
Not
wrote
yet.
sketches for a college age group. And they're still on YouTube under CCF 90s Skits Nostalgia if you want to watch it there, if you want to watch it without the commentary. There's a lot of evangelical cringe going on here, and I'll get to that when I get to that.
Nice.
I'm intending to compile
Now
all
we're ready to
these
transmit.
commentaries that I'm doing into one particular episode that I hope to have done by the end of April, beginning of May, sometime like that. This is a sketch that is obviously based on Apollo 13,
This is
but if you didn't know that, I don't blame you. That film is pretty old. It is still pretty good. I used to watch it quite a few times because I think a roommate of mine owned it. And
we're up here in outer space,
and I just think it's just a great story overall, honestly. It's hard to believe that it actually really happened. I really hope it happened the way that they showed it in the movie that Ron Howard directed, because it's a pretty exciting story that feels like an episode of Star Trek, but in like real life.
Say something to the folks back in the good
Now
old
I'm gonna say some things and to explain the context of how we're using it. At CCF, we often did this thing where at the end of the year, where most of the students would be heading
You
home,
want to say something to them?
to wherever they came
I
from.
miss church and
And
I miss
one
some
of the
my
things that I
friends back
think
home, too.
Pastor Phil, the guy who was in charge of CCF, never liked is a lot of the students,
Nice
they
piloting,
just kind of
Jack.
felt like they just
Well,
weren't as in
as you
touch
can
with
see,
God as they
life's pretty
were
exciting up here.
when they were at
But,
CCF
we sure
or
miss you all a
in
lot.
Pullman in
We're looking
general.
forward to coming back home.
So,
We're
and I have to
surviving
admit,
pretty well
I
with
felt
good
that
light,
way.
fresh light
There
from the
was a
Word
few
and
summers I spent
Pastor Phil's letters
at
of
home, and I
encouragement.
felt that I
So,
was just like,
y'all have a great summer.
just didn't
We're
feel
looking forward to
very,
seeing you when we return.
just didn't have that whole
This is
fellowship
Apollo,
around me
signing
with my friends.
That's
And
a go,
it
Apollo
was
13.
difficult. And
Quick,
so this
though,
sketch is sort of
we have a life
written
support
as kind of
problem.
like
Can
helping
you
out
get that,
people
recharged?
here.
Copy.
In this case,
Copy, Houston.
these people are spending their entire
Jack, you
summer in
want to,
space. It's
take
kind
care
of
of that?
metaphorical for the students who are away from church for a bit.
Whoa,
So, you might have heard the sound of glass hitting each other in that
Buses out.
when they start getting off course. There's a reason for that, and you'll see it at the end here. This is how I do like how this was handled. I think metaphorically, I think this is really works really well. I think it really gets, it feels like the movie. And yeah, I do like the fact that we use, I don't know if it's a green screen or a blue screen. I think we just used some screen of some type. I think it was just, I think it was the first time we ever used like a blue screen for these things.
It appears to be
And I have to admit, I didn't really
life
like shooting
support.
with video because I don't know, it's always harder. But this was actually done in real time. Like these guys were like just backstage with a
70%.
camera, and then and people in the
fall.
audience could see because there's a screen
something's draining our
above
power.
the main stage where they
Fred,
have the
you
mission
got a read on
control
what's been
thing.
draining our power?
Geez, I guess I didn't really explain that, did I?
use a little
At any
car
given
for
time.
some TV.
Because sometimes, yeah, you have to.
Fred!
So oftentimes I
power's
used to
gonna last us
cut
the whole
back
summer.
and forth between the stage.
Well, I'm sorry.
Anyway, the guy who was in
Missed
charge of
Baywatch.
CCF, he wanted to do this Apollo 13 like at the beginning of the
use that
year,
much
back when it
power?
was fresh in people's mind, he thought. But
That's true.
I
Something else must be draining our
I
power.
don't know. I didn't do it, and
Jack?
so
Where are you beginning your life?
I guess I didn't think that was a good idea. I'm very glad I kind of saved it to the. This is one of those times where I'm going to have to say I was right on this one, because I think this idea works better for the end of the year rather than the beginning of the year. And
Go ahead,
I remember
Apollo
that
13.
time where he was like reading
Our
through the
life
script
support
and
is
he was
draining.
smiling and he just
Our
goes
power
like,
is
"I
fading
love this
also.
thing," and I always
Because of
thought,
that, we're off course.
to
Can you
me,
get
that
some
was
help up
big.
there?
Roger,
This
Apollo.
guy
We're
who
gonna
I
assess
always
the
pitched the
problem
sketches
down
to,
here.
and sometimes
We're
I
gonna
would
try
give
to
him the
get you some
sketch.
auxiliary
Sometimes he'd read it
spiritual
over
life
and
up
he'd kind of
there,
go,
and we're also going to
and
try to
he'd,
get you on track.
you know,
Back
where
on
he'd see the
track here.
potential. But
Hold
this
for the
one, I caught him
necessary
reading it, and he
procedures,
just
copy.
goes like,
Copy,
"I can't
Houston.
wait to do this
We're looking
one."
forward to hearing from you.
And he absolutely
Apollo
just
signing off.
loved this
Okay,
one because I
guys,
think he
this
loves
is
the
what we have to
movie,
work
and
with.
well, I did too. So that kind of worked in our favor here.
We have a
So,
four-color pen. We have
as
a
far as this
spiritual
full
notebook.
color,
We
four-color
have a
pen,
Bible.
I don't even want to try and
most
explain that
importantly,
as
we
far as
have
what that
God.
means.
What I need you to do
That
is
was
I
something
need you
that's
to take these
maybe
things
unique
and
to
make
our
a
church.
filter for
I
them to get
really
rid of
hope
the
not,
discouragement
but
so that we
yeah.
can put some
Whole
life
spiritual
support up there.
notebook. Do I have to explain
And
what that is? I
failure
hope
is
not.
not an option.
Okay, I
Get
did like
to
the
it, man.
failure is not an option thing. I always like the scene in Apollo 13 where they have to construct this filter that fits a round something into a square thing, but I don't know. I always kind of thought that was really good.
We're not going to
And
do
I always
this.
like the scene in
We're
Apollo
not going to
13
sit here
where
and argue for 10 minutes
Jim
and
Lovell,
end up in the exact
Tom
same
Hanks'
place.
character, basically
No, we
tells
got 1,000
them
things
that
to
they
do.
got to stop arguing because
We're on number 8. You guys are
we're not
talking
going
about
to do
number
this, not going to
749.
argue about this and end up in the
We're
same
gonna get
place
through
we were
this
before. I always thought that was
with
pretty
God.
dynamic. And
with each other.
so, yeah, I think I incorporated
man, what'd you come
quite
up
a
with?
lot of great things in
That's
the
where they
film.
got a
Because there are
middle.
some times where you
You see,
do a
this is
sketch that's
letter
based on
from Pastor
something
Phil,
and it's only like a satire and name
encourages,
only, and you only take
plasmatic,
some
more,
parts of it. Here,
violent
man, I mean, I mean, I
Hebrew.
will take like full
Talk
lines from the
today.
Apollo 13
It's
movie
encouragement, sir.
and
Okay, and this Bible
make
here
it
is
in
gonna
there.
filter out their discouragements
So,
that they already got.
and this is
Nice
pretty
work,
funny.
man. Apollo 13.
Wait. We need
Oh, yeah,
a
here's
fire
the
blast
guys.
to put them back on course. But the only problem
Yeah, they
is
talk about
we only
taking
have
on 20 amps. I took that
Oh,
from the
20 amps?
film.
We can't even run this
I
microphone.
really like a
on
line
20
that I
amps.
have here that where I say we can't even run this microphone
I know
on
it
20
only took
amps.
20 amps,
It really
but
breaks
with
out.
God,
I don't know why.
can
I
do
just think
anything.
that's funny. I kind of like that.
All okay,
How we're kind
Apollo
of
13, are you up
it's
there?
really kind of
We have your procedures for you.
taking you out of the
First
moment of there,
all,
but
you
honestly
need a
it kind of
Bible.
works.
You need a 4-color pen.
Yeah, you need a Bible,
You need a
4-color pen.
spiritual
Yeah,
notebook,
spiritual notebook.
and
Yeah,
most
I know.
importantly,
These are crazy
you
things
need
that
God. I want you to assess that, put
that
it
Christian
together,
people
make a
want
filter.
to
We're going to get
give
rid
us
of the
to
discouragement,
help
and
us
then we're
and
going to
be
work on
encouraged and
getting
stuff
you
like
fired
that.
up
But
and back
you can
on
see where
track.
this is going.
Copy?
Anyway,
Houston.
so
Fredo, get to work on that filter.
anyway, I just
Houston.
I don't know why. I think
we do
that
that
there's something
fire
about
up
the sketch that
with
really
this
kind of
little power?
draws me in, and
Apollo Summer 13.
unfortunately, this is
With
kind of one of
God,
those things where I
you
wish
can do
I kind of,
anything.
yeah, I know. This
Copy,
is,
Houston.
I've never really mentioned
Fredo,
here
you
that
ready with that
you
filter?
lose a lot in the videotape
Dang
on
it,
this.
Jim. I'm an
Yeah,
astronaut.
it's not the person
not
who's
a-
taping its fault.
not
They
an
don't.
engineer.
I mean, they
Fredo,
don't really
you
know.
can't put
So,
that
for
line
example,
in
like
here.
they should
We've used
cut
that line
back
over
to where the
100 times in the
astronauts
last
are
3
for
years.
most of this dialogue, but
already
they
in,
don't
Jim.
really don't.
Check life
And the
support.
audience can actually see both happening at the same
Life
time.
support is at,
So yeah, see now they cut.
80,
I think they're a minute too late on
90.
that. That's fine.
and climbing.
That
Nice
that's
work,
pretty
Fredo.
good. Anyway, so we got ourselves a
Swagger.
good happy ending here.
You ready with that burn?
Oh yeah, this thing.
Engaging
This is
manual
about one of the
control.
cheapest effects you could
Now.
ever do in anything. You just have them move at the same
This could be our worst failure ever.
It feels like
Actually,
something out of Star
this
Trek
will
or
be our
something like that.
finest
If you haven't watched a Star Trek sketch, you can watch that. That's maybe even funnier than this one. I don't know.
Houston,
Oh
we
boy.
are back on course.
I do like the way the guy
Ready to fulfill
in
our
the center
victorious
delivers his
summer
line.
mission.
So everybody's getting excited
All
about it.
right, Apollo 13.
And they all look like astronauts.
Get those helmet on.
Now remember when I said there was
We're gonna
glass
get you
banging
ready for
against each other?
re-entry.
That's what
Copy.
you heard. Glass fish bowls that I bought at Walmart. And then
Hey,
after
didn't
I was
they,
done, I
finish
think I
the meeting
returned them
before we got
for
on the ship?
the price.
I think our heads got a little out of proportion.
I like that idea.
Houston,
That's a
have a
hysterical
problem.
ending. I just love it.